In the late Cretaceous epoch, dominated by colossal shadows and ferocious powers, the surface of the Earth was enduring its most turbulent unrest in history. Unknown, piercing glimmers of light frequently streaked across the sky, while continental plates deep underground emitted a dull, spine-chilling sound of tearing. Yet, just as all the invincible, primordial overlords fell into an inescapable panic of destiny, a certain creature found the most transcendent way to live. Tonight, beside the gently flickering hearth, let us journey into its true life through this story that requires no effort to remember. Its name was Thescelosaurus. In the starry compendium of the primordial dawn, it was never the dazzling protagonist standing at the vanguard of the era. It did not possess the terrifying fangs of a Tyrannosaurus rex capable of tearing the night apart, nor the heavy, solid shield of a Triceratops that could overturn fate. Its body was petite and lightweight, its skin a dull brownish tan that blended seamlessly with fallen leaves and soil. By nature, it was introspective, gentle, and solitary. As heavy, burning crimson clouds massed once more in the sky above the continent, the beasts on the ground fled in all directions out of heat and terror, letting out violent roars. The Thescelosaurus, however, deep within the woods, used its short but extraordinarily powerful front claws to unhurriedly burrow into the soft humus at an exceptionally slow pace. It was sinking itself, inch by inch, into the deepest parts of the earth, searching for a bedroom exclusively its own, a sanctuary of absolute safety and profound envelopment. In a deep subterranean burrow closer to the Earth's core, all the clamor of the surface would be filtered completely clean by the thick layers of soil, leaving only the ultimate stillness. Tonight, we too shall follow the tips of its claws, peeling away the day's anxieties layer by layer, and sink into this ancient dreamscape filled with the fragrance of the earth. In the very beginning, fate did not arrange any broad, smooth path leading to the summit of the earth for the Thescelosaurus. It was born in the latest stage of the Cretaceous period on the North American continent, a ruthless era when the ecosystem was strained to its absolute limit, ready to snap at any moment. Every morning, while the dawn mist still drifted through the tall redwood forests, brutal predators were already patrolling the muddy ground with heavy steps. For a Thescelosaurus, measuring only a few meters in length and devoid of any offensive weaponry, every breath taken on the surface was accompanied by a chilling dread. Yet, it was precisely this seemingly hopeless vulnerability that became the first fracture propelling its destiny to shift, guiding it toward an entirely different path. It realized early on that if it competed with those behemoths for pastures under the sun or dignity beneath the sky, it would stand absolutely no chance. When its peers were locked in violent struggles over the last succulent fern leaf, even inviting fatal disasters, it quietly stepped back. It wandered alone to the deepest, most forgotten corner of the jungle, coming to a halt beside the roots of a giant redwood tree that had withered centuries ago. It lowered its head, gazing at the thick, enveloping black soil beneath its feet, which wafted a damp scent, as a wondrous resonance swelled within its heart. The world on the surface was too crowded and clamorous, but the embrace of the earth was eternally vast. Moreover, every step taken downward meant one less conflict to endure. Thus, it began to bend its forelimbs, digging its claws firmly into the soil for the first time, instantly wrapped by the earth's unique dryness and weight. This single step of change allowed it to completely withdraw from the endless power dynamics of the surface, carving out a kingdom of its own in the dark underground. Each excavation was its gentle farewell to that violent era. It left all its ambitions in the place furthest from the sky, digging a perfect underground bedroom was not an impatient chore that could be accomplished overnight. It demanded ultimate patience and a long wait. In this solitary project, the Thescelosaurus displayed a serenity and restraint that far surpassed other dinosaurs, each of its movements as slow as time itself. It would first utilize its strong hind limbs and tail for support, and then use its front claws with great rhythm to scratch away the dead twigs, fallen leaves, and sand from the surface. It would not dig too deep all at once, for the newly excavated soil needed time to settle and adapt to the intricate pressure structures underground. It advanced only a few inches downward each day. For the remainder of its time, it would stroll unhurriedly through the forest, gathering various all-natural materials capable of bringing it warmth. It would gently pick up those ancient pine needles dried thoroughly by the sun with its mouth, transporting them bundle by bundle, neatly into the newly shaped channel. There were also those exceptionally soft mosses scattered beneath the great trees, along with the withered leaves of various ferns carrying the crisp fragrance of nature. It mixed these materials with the moist soil, repeatedly rubbing and pressing its abdomen and back against the four walls of the channel. Through years of friction, the originally rough, cracked mud walls gradually became as firm as rock, yet as smooth and delicate as leather. This was not merely a passage, but a work of art sculpted out of its life's time, every contour perfectly fitting the lines of its body. During this process, the jungle experienced the baptism of torrential rains several times, and countless animals living on the surface shivered and wailed miserably in the mud and cold. Yet, the Thescelosaurus could hide at the entrance of its burgeoning underground bedroom, watching the rain slide off the dense foliage without a single ripple of unrest in its heart. The thick soil was the world's most perfect acoustic barrier and thermal insulation layer. It completely severed the coldness and cruelty outside, leaving only the cozy warmth within the nest. It began to grow accustomed to adjusting its breathing within the hay pile, allowing its heart rate to slowly synchronize with the rhythm of a certain low-frequency vibration deep within the earth. When the situation across the entire Cretaceous continent became increasingly compressed and the living spaces were shattered into ruins, the burrow of the Thescelosaurus was finally completed. It was an ultimate sanctuary hidden several meters beneath the earth, its entrance masterfully concealed by the intertwined, sprawling roots of a giant redwood tree, making it exceptionally inconspicuous. The passage presented a gentle, downward slope, capable of perfectly blocking the intrusion of any fierce surface winds while allowing the air to circulate at an extremely slow pace. The bedroom at the deepest end was a spacious, rounded, arched space, filled with dry hay and pine needles over a foot thick. As these plants naturally decayed, they generated a mild, continuous warmth, ensuring the temperature inside the cave always remained at the most comfortable state. Night fell, and the temperature on the surface plummeted. The icy night wind howled through the tall trees like a wail, and the darkness was filled with the anxious footsteps of predators. The Thescelosaurus slowly trod down the soft mud passage toward its bedroom. With every step it descended, the clamor and chill behind it faded rapidly. When it finally stepped into that bedroom blanketed with hay, a scent blending the mellow fragrance of soil, the crisp dryness of pine needles, and the aroma of ancient vegetation greeted it. This scent was profoundly reassuring. It was the primordial odor exclusive to Mother Earth, unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, representing absolute safety. It slowly curled its body up, its long tail looping circle by circle along its contour, perfectly protecting its vulnerable abdomen at the very core. The dry hay made a faint, crisp rustling sound beneath it, like a gentle lullaby composed specifically for it on this night. It gently rested its head on its warm front claws, its entire body tightly enveloped by the thick mud walls around it, leaving no gaps whatsoever. Within this ultimate sense of envelopment and certainty, all dangers on the surface dissolved into nothingness, and every single one of its cells began to shift from tension to complete relaxation. In this bedroom located so close to the Earth's core, time seemed to lose its original meaning of passage, transforming into a motionless, gently flowing river. The Thescelosaurus closed its eyes, quietly listening in the dark to those echoes of nature that had been filtered by the soil, becoming extremely faint and muffled. It could hear, deep underground, the ancient tree roots absorbing moisture from the depths of the earth at an exceptionally slow pace, emitting a nearly imperceptible rhythm full of vitality. It could also hear, in the uppermost layer of soil, those hibernating little insects occasionally turning over in the soft crevices, making subtle and rhythmic scratching sounds. These sounds possessed not an ounce of aggression, they intertwined with the long, deep respiration of the Thescelosaurus, constituting the most perfect white noise on the primeval land. Occasionally, deafening thunder would strike the surface, or violent earthquakes lasting for several hours would erupt on the eve of a giant celestial impact. Those destructive forces, capable of shattering the courage of all dinosaur overlords on the surface, were reduced to a gentle, slight swaying by the time they traveled here through meters of thick, heavy soil. That sensation felt just like a mother rocking a sleeping infant. Instead of bringing the slightest terror, it made the sleepiness of the Thescelosaurus even more intense. In a state of semi-sleep and semi-waking, it even adjusted its posture slightly, burying itself deeper into the hay pile, leaving only a tiny nostril exposed. It no longer needed to pay attention to where the global landscape would head, nor did it need to worry about whether it could find enough vegetation tomorrow to fill its stomach. In this tiny realm it had dug for itself, it was the absolute sovereign, and its sole method of ruling over this kingdom was to fall into a deep, heavy slumber. This choice, which transcended the pressures of the era, allowed it to live as the happiest, most serene creature on the entire continent on the eve of that most brutal extinction. By surrendering height, it exchanged for the deepest continuation of life. In the fragrance of the soil, it was stepping toward eternal tranquility, when that ultimate catastrophe that would rewrite the destiny of the earth crashed upon the surface, shaking the entire world in a sea of fire and raging winds. The dream of the Thessallosaurus remained sweet. The scorching shockwave instantly swept away all the prosperity on the surface. Those once invincible Tyrannosaurus rexes and Triceratops vanished into the dust of time amidst desperate wails. However, owing to the visionary downward descent of the Thessallosaurus, the thick layers of soil and the deep burrow turned into the strongest, gentlest shield in the world. The raging fires on the surface could not scorch the warm mud meters deep, nor could the toxic gases in the sky pierce that tiny passage sealed by redwood roots and layers of wet mud. While the outside world plunged into endless destruction and a prolonged volcanic winter, this subterranean bedroom carpeted with ancient hay became the most peaceful amber preserved by nature. The Thessallosaurus remained inside this amber, maintaining its original, most comfortable curled posture, its heartbeat slowed to the absolute minimum, beating only a mere few times per minute. Each heartbeat was like an ancient pendulum deep within the earth, swaying gently, precise and full of patience, quietly awaiting the complete subsiding of the surface storm. Its breathing was so soft that even the hay debris beside it was not disturbed in the slightest. It had completely merged into the respiration rhythm of the soil. Time entirely lost its edge in this tiny burrow. A day, a year, or a century made no difference to the Thessallosaurus at this moment. It was having an unimaginably long and gentle dream, a dream devoid of cold and hunger, filled only with endless warm sunshine and inexhaustible fresh fern leaves. By utilizing its unique weakness and withdrawal, which were misunderstood by its era, it won the most dignified and tranquil conclusion for itself and its entire lineage beneath the scythe of death. When scholars hundreds of millions of years later rediscovered its fossil deep within the rock strata, everyone marveled at its posture, perfectly preserved as it was, even with its skin textures vividly visible. That was not the skeleton of a creature that died struggling in agony, but an ancient traveler who had quietly slept for eons wrapped in ultimate envelopment and security. Today, that Cretaceous surface which once drove countless behemoths into frenzy and destruction has long since completely transformed through the vicissitudes of time. The overlords that once filled the world with clamor have become cold skeletons in museums, leaving later generations to merely imagine their past invincibility out of thin air. Yet, when we reopen the memory of the Thessallosaurus on this quiet night, our ears still seem to catch that scent of soil wafting from the ancient subterranean bedroom. That deep burrow filled with dry pine needles, brimming with ultimate envelopment and certainty, eventually became the ultimate symbol for transcending time and space to heal the soul. It uses the story of its life to gently tell us that when the outside world becomes too crowded, loud, and leaves us feeling powerless, stepping back and learning to dig deep down, to carve out an undisturbed, quiet bedroom in the depths of one's own heart, is not cowardice, but a supreme survival wisdom. The sound of the wind has gradually quieted down now. All the clamor, disputes, and anxieties of the day have been completely isolated by the thick soil and the slow flow of this story. In this long night belonging exclusively to you, there is no longer anything that requires you to sprint at full speed, nor is there any giant beast you need to fear or confront. Just like that clever Thessallosaurus, your entire body is already tightly enveloped by the warmest, softest blanket, and every single joint has completely relaxed. The ancient starlight has pierced through the mists of time, lighting a faint but never extinguishing night lamp at the edge of your dreams, guarding your most private, suspended peace. Listening to the low narration by your ear, and feeling that sleepiness deep within your brain growing heavier and more intense, let your consciousness gently sink alongside the lake-like silence. Sleep now, surrender all your exhaustion to this all-embracing night, and peacefully drift into the deepest dreamscape amidst the fragrance of soil and hay. Good night, distant and gentle ancient world, good night, to every kind soul reclaiming peace in the deep of the night.